All right, we are live Friday nights in Flushing with CPNYSPORTS tonight. It's been a while, boys. Mets got rained out 2 days in a row. Well, Wednesday, and then they were off
Off
Thursday.
yesterday.
But Mets are back. Knicks are winning. Rangers are winning. So New York vibes are pretty high right now.
Where is it? There it is.
Um, before we even get into Charlie Morton, Jose Quintana, finally for the first time, Mets are wearing their black jerseys tonight. A little different than what they've done in the past. Where are you guys on this? Because I have my opinion. I want to hear what both of you think.
Yeah, so I might be in the minority here. I like it. I don't know. I find it. Everyone says that it doesn't really pop with that like this white piping around the lettering, but I like it. I think it would look a little bit better if they did like the black hat with the blue brim, like back in the early 2000s. But I don't hate it. You know, people are hating on it, but I think it's gonna grow on everyone.
What do
Yeah.
you think, Chris?
I honestly agree with Zach there. I'm not a big jersey guy. Like if there's subtle changes to a jersey and it's not announced publicly, I might not even notice, to be honest with you. That's kind of a homerish take, or not even a homerish take, but maybe like a boomerish take on my end. Just like, screw the jerseys. Let's just go out games. But that's honestly how I feel, to be honest with you. I really could care less. I love the black jerseys in the first place. So whatever iteration of that they are going to trot out there, I'm going to fully back, because you can't go wrong with the black jerseys. Ever since they started to reinstitute them, I've been absolutely loving them. The play in them obviously hasn't been so good, but then again, if you're superstitious like, then you have a type of feeling toward it. But if you're not, like I tend to be, then just go out there and win a freaking ball game in them. How about that? So I really could care less about these jerseys. I know that's like a horrible way to start out this segment and start out this conversation here tonight, but I love the aesthetic of it. Whatever iteration they trot out, I'm gonna be supporting it.
No, I don't think it's a bad take, Chris. I
No, neither do I.
personally, so I'm with you on the black jersey as a whole. Like I was not clamoring. Like I was on the opposite side with the Lions. Like I was dying for the Lions to bring back the black, and I'm happy that they did. When it came to the Mets, like I was always like, I could take or leave the black jerseys. Like it's all right, you know. Me personally, I'm with you, Zach, in terms of the look of it. I think this is the best one that they've come out with since they started the black jerseys. I love this. It's subtle. It's not in your face, but it's nice. It looks more like something you would wear on a Friday night. It's not something that like pops in the sunlight or anything. I don't know. Just for me, this is perfect. I like this. If I was running the Mets, the direction I would go is I would probably somehow introduce the anything from the 80s, whether it be like what I have on my arm, like the New York, you can't really see it, but like
Yeah.
the gray
racing
New
stripes.
York script,
Yeah.
the racing stripe. Like I think fans go crazy over that because obviously because of 86 and all the history there. But like, yeah, at the end of the day, just like you said, Chris, like just win. Just fucking win in them.
Oh, a question
Exactly.
though. People give it flack, obviously, with the pinstripes, but do you guys seriously not like the home pinstripes? Because I like them. I think
I like the home pinstripes.
I like it.
I think when they went in like the mid 2000s to that plain white just Mets, I thought that was atrocious.
Disgusting.
I hated that.
Back in that closet, I have a Daniel Murphy jersey from, I think it was their 50-year anniversary year, which was what? So 2012 probably, right?
2012, yeah.
Yeah, 2012.
62.
Oh my God. Like I love Daniel Murphy. I love having the jersey, but it's gross. I look at it, I'm like, damn, I really never want to wear this, but it's my go-to playoff jersey just because of the Daniel Murphy legend in that 2015 run.
So let's get into some shitty news. Brooks Raley, what started as something that didn't really seem so serious, 15-day IL, whatever, has now come out that he's not even close to throwing again. Probably a guy, I mean, at this point, maybe we see him in the middle of June. Like, I don't even know what to think. Like, what's going on? Is it his shoulder?
I don't know. I thought it was what'd you say, Chris?
I'm pretty sure it's elbow inflammation, and
That's what I thought too. Yeah, I thought elbow, but you know what? It's funny. Like this isn't something that I've like thought about other than these like little tidbits I've gotten on Twitter because the bullpen's been dominant. I mean, obviously we had little bits mishaps by Ottavino, Edwin Diaz. Edwin Diaz, you're not really expecting that from. So it hasn't really been this doom and gloom situation where like, oh, we're out Brooks Raley. Well, who are we going to go to in the ninth inning? Who are we going to go to against teams' top lefties? No, because Reed Garrett's come out of absolutely nowhere and been amazing. Sean Reed-Foley's come back and been phenomenal. Needs to tone down the walks a little bit, but that's a different story. And Jake Diekman's been solid too. So I mean, just top to bottom, that bullpen is loaded and it's only going to get better.
Don't forget Jorge Lopez.
Don't forget Jorge. Exactly. There's so many people to get touch on. It's like it's so easy to forget people. But like it's aside from like Reed Garrett's been incredible. I mean, it's phenomenal what's happening. To have him come up and be this good, basically right when Raley went down, was just kind of like made you forget about him.
Reed Garrett being like really good and effective was like. That's kind of one of those things when we talk about like the Mets scenarios to getting like if we had that when we had that conversation like in the beginning in the preseason of how can this team get to 86, 88, 92 wins? Like that's one of the things that you're kind of like talking about. You're like, yeah, Luis Severino has to be lights out. Edwin Diaz has to be his normal self and Lindor's got to produce and blah, blah, blah. But like one of those things that you really weren't even thinking about was like Reed Garrett. And now you've got that, right? So like that's kind of baseball and it's every sport. It's every single sport. Like you're seeing it now with the Knicks. Brunson goes down and other people need to step in and kind of fill that role and get those points and rebounds and whatever. It's the same with baseball. Like a guy like Francisco Alvarez goes down and now you need other people to kind of pick up the slack. So like in a typical Mets world, Brooks Raley going down would probably derail this team over the course of a few weeks. Yeah. But in this case, it hasn't because a guy like Reed Garrett, who most people would have said won't be on this roster come Memorial Day, is probably our second best reliever right now.
I said that. I was, especially in spring training. I was like, there's no way guys coming up with the big league squad. But that's just a testament to, and I still don't know this fact, and I should have definitely fact checked myself before this stream. And if we all don't know, then we have a little bit of homework to do. But given when he was brought into this organization, I'm curious whether that was an Epler regime move or a David Stearns regime move. Because
it was an Epler move.
It was Epler.
It is. That was 100% Epler.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
But it's David Stearns to keep him. Like
sure.
David Stearns has had no loyalty to anybody on this roster, and therefore, like he shouldn't, right? And that's David Stearns and Carlos Mendoza, formulating this roster and making the decision to keep him on.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I mean, David Stearns done a great job of like bringing in guys to this bullpen, and I'll go back on that. He's done a good job of finding guys not only outside the system, outside the organization, but within the organization that haven't really gotten that shot yet, and maximize their potential. Whether that's the pitching lab or that's just his vision of seeing these guys and be like, no, these guys should be on the roster right now. I mean, Jorge Lopez was a great signing. Reed Garrett was great coming up. Sean Reed-Foley's finally getting an expanded role now. Now, obviously, it's more because of injuries, but he's looked awesome. So the bullpens look better than it has in years, and it's something that we've been clamoring for as Mets fans that they need to build around Edwin Diaz, and they finally have.
About that, though, like exactly what you just said. First of all, I see my man Darren in the chat. He's always supporting every Mets content creator. This podcast, he's on top of it. So shout out to Darren. I appreciate you. No pregame stream for me and Rob today, but I appreciate you being here, Darren. It means a lot. Second of all, the point you just made, that pitching lab, and this was brought onto my timeline today talking about this Mets pitching, the farm system and the pitching aspect. Everyone talks about the hitters and who we have with Acuna, Gilbert, Clifford, Jet Williams, etc. And that was the whole talk of the offseason. And nobody wanted to talk about the pitching prospects outside of like Christian Scott and Mike Vasil. But that's something that you just mentioned. And I had a guy on my podcast, great YouTube channel, great sort of Mets minor league insider as well, covers the St. Lucie Mets all the way down in A-ball, named Ernest Dove. Shout out to Ernest if you somehow...
Ernest is great. We've been following for years.
I watched that show you guys had earlier in the season. That was awesome.
Yeah, we had him on. And I remember you were in the chat for that, Zach. And he talking about the prospects that nobody might have heard of just yet, but definitely to watch and keep an eye out on. And he also talked about the pitching lab and just the after effects and the shock waves of the pitching lab finally making its way down through every single level of this minor league farm system. And I really do think now at this point in the season, you're starting to hear names get a lot of hype in the lower levels of this organization that a lot of people knew were in this organization, but they're like, okay, so what? When he gets called up to AA, AAA, notify me then when he's right on the stepping stone, the door, knocking on the door to come up to Queens. Like Brandon Sproat. Who else?
Jonah Tom.
Who else? Jonah
Tom, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's just
is loaded. It's crazy.
top to bottom. Nolan McLean too, the two-way player from was Oklahoma State, I think.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just top to bottom, and there's just pitching depth everywhere, every step of the farm system, and it's wild. I mean, and these guys are coming out of the woodworks.
Yep.
I mean, unless you know the system, but 95% of people don't. You know,
and that's a perfect segue to the series too, because we have the top dog. Obviously, we got to talk about Quintana first, but the top dog right now.
Pitching Saturday, yeah.
Got pitching game
can't
2.
wait.
And it sucks. I'm probably gonna miss most of that game because I'm working. Then I gotta go to a communion. So odds are like that's probably gonna be a Howie Rose game. That's gonna be tough. But let's get through a little bit of tonight. Charlie Morton, Jose Quintana. Charlie, they're both pretty identical. I'm looking here, 36, both 36 innings pitched. Morton's got a 1.14 whip. Jose's got a 1.54. Morton's got 33 to 13 K to walk rate. K to bases on balls, and Jose Quintana 25-16. And then Charlie's got a 3.5. Jose's got a 5.2 ERA. Tale of two tapes here. Like, Quintana is a guy that should be, and like every time he goes out there, I feel like we're all saying like, tonight's the night he gets back on track, right? Tonight's the night we see 6 innings, 2 runs, no problem. I don't care. At this point with Quintana, I don't give a shit how many Ks, walks, hits, right? Just give me 6 innings, 2 runs, and you're giving us a chance. And for the most part, we really have not seen that.
No.
And that's frustrating. That's really frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah. With Quintana, it's weird because you look at the stats and it's misleading because a lot of it's inflated from that Tampa Bay start. It really is. And he's a solid pitcher, and he's someone that you really expect to go out there and really just keep you in ball games, not really go out in there and dominate and really take over a game. And I think that's something that is really to his detriment with guys getting healthy like Tyler McGill.
I don't think it's just that Tampa Bay, man. It's not Tampa Bay.
No,
it's San Francisco, 5 runs. It's Atlanta, 5 innings, 3 runs. And then
he had like a 3 ERA before that game. I mean, it really inflated it. But again, I like Quintana, but I think he's someone that really is kind of on thin ice right now with this team because, I mean,
100%.
Hauser got bumped as soon as Christian Scott was ready, and now you got Tyler McGill, David Peterson, Senga looming. I mean, even Dom Hamill and Vassell could be guys that you may look to call up eventually at some point this year. And Quintana's probably, the first person you look at the DFA or get rid lose from the rotation, assuming there's no other injuries. And
there's nothing to really lose with that too, because he's gone after this year anyways. He's a 36 pitcher. He's going to be gone anyway. So he, like, you know what? If Brooks Raley is going to be gone for a while, I know we talk about David Peterson. He's coming back. Maybe he's going to take on like a bullpen stint. Jose Quintana is definitely for that as well. So I agree with you. Like, the Mets are in a position right now where any pitcher that underperforms is going to be under thin ice because these guys are just simply ready to come up. And let's not lose sight of the fact that we all know that this team can sneak in the back in the wild card. But if they don't, this is a evaluation period year. Nonetheless, I know a lot of people hate admitting it. I understand it because this front office has stated they want to win. But let's just be honest here. They are still simultaneously trying to win ball games and evaluate that talent. And really, the only way that you evaluate talent, because I really think the Mets are going to make this jump to be back into the wild card contenders this year to actual let's compete for a division after our offseason next year. And with that happening, you have to understand who can perform at the major league level versus the minor league level, because the Mets have already problems with that. Guys overperforming in the minor leagues, coming up to the major leagues, and underperforming. So they need to get these guys on the big league diamond this year, and it's going to be a very hard time doing so, balancing that. Do we want to win ball games or do you want to evaluate, and trying to just do both at the same time? Now, what I will say in terms of this actual game, not getting ahead of ourselves, and shout out to Stevie Mack in the chat as well. Appreciate you always supporting as well. Jose Quintana, he's been bad. I'm not going to lie to you. Just like I know the statistics of it. You just mentioned the stat lines. Obviously inflated from Tampa Bay. I definitely agree with you, Zach. But also just like his stuff when I watch him, he needs to be a pristine location command type mode, and he just hasn't been that guy. He's got a 91 and 92 mile per hour fastball, which is food to any major leaguer that steps into that box. He needs to be pristine with his location. He just simply hasn't been. Now, it is a tale of the tape, like you said, Past, because guess what? This lineup notoriously against Charlie Morton just has a tough time, especially on that bender of a curveball that he has. I was actually looking at the statistics of the starting lineup today for the Mets versus Charlie Morton in their careers. JD Martinez kills him. Brett Beatty's only had 6 at-bats, but he has 3 hits off of him. And the rest of the lineup, maybe outside of Tomas Nido, who's 2 for 6 in his career off of Morton, looks atrocious. And you flip the script and look at the Braves' career statistics versus Quintana. Ozzy Albies is batting over 500. You got Austin Riley smacking him. You got the big boppers of that lineup love to feast off of Quintana. And I believe you said that he's already had a start in Atlanta versus them. And I'll take 5 innings with 3-run ball all day long from Quintana. Again, a matchup that really has plagued them in the past. But, man, this is going to be something where you look at this, and we talked about it on the roundtable on Thursday. This team has not been as good at home as they have been on the road. How do they fare against their biggest rivals, to me, right? Or even over to the Phillies. Braves are like my most hated team, not going to lie to you. How do they fare at home against this tough opponent? It's going to be a tough task, man.
I think getting off to a good start tonight is really key to this series because, I mean, you look at tomorrow and Sunday, I really think you could win either of those games with the pitching we have, with how Severino's pitched this year, with Scott, with his, his upside is tremendous. I think the big thing is really just getting off to a good start with Quintana tonight. Doesn't mean we have to go out and win the game, but just go out there and put these hitters in their place. Go out there, keep us in a ball game. Let the hitters try to win it for you. You got to let these guys try to win it because that's too much of the problem is the hitters won't do their job when the pitchers come in and they do theirs, and vice versa. The hitters do their job, the pitchers can't close.
Mets always have trouble on the weekends. Like I don't know what it is. Like Saturdays they've been like so hot and cold. I feel like in the past it was always like they'll win Friday, they'll win Sunday, and it was almost guaranteed they're going to lose Saturday.
Yeah.
But you guys are both right. I mean, come out. I mean, shit, you win tonight. That to me, maybe there's a loser mentality, but like that's almost like found money. You win tonight with Quintana on the bump like that, and you're going against Morton. That would be phenomenal. And like, yeah, we hope that Scott looks as good as he did in Tampa, but like, who knows, man? The kid's young. He's gonna have his bad starts. We've seen it with Buto, where he's been up and down, and that doesn't waver my confidence in Buto like at all.
Okay.
I love Buto, and like. At the end of the day, man, if the future of this rotation can start with, hopefully like Senga, Scott, some version of Senga, Scott, and Buto, and then you fill in the rest, like, hey, I think that's a playoff team every fucking year.
Yep.
If those guys stay healthy, no doubt about it.
Go ahead, Chris. Off, I apologize, but I just want to get a sense for you, like with you all. I say it all the time on my streams, on my like Mets talks, whatever, the roundtables. Like this rotation, we all know is not going to wow us. Like they're not going to go out there and be dominant and carry this team to victory. All we ask, like you said, Zach, is to keep the ball game close and just hope and pray that the offense does their job because that's what they're supposed to do. Like Luis Severino has been outperforming a lot of people's expectations, not mine because I knew he was going to go out there and be a stud. He's pitching to like, what, a 2.83 ERA right now, somewhere there. That's fantastic. Christian Scott looks fantastic, obviously, in his first start. We'll see if he can keep that up. Jose Buto looks good all in all, getting the late call up, having to fill in. This rotation, like, if you give up 2, 3, 4 runs within 5 or 6 innings of work, that's fine, because guess what? The guys in this lineup are supposed to be putting that run production up anyways. They're supposed to be that. So keep your team in the ball game. That's all I ask. And the rest on top of that is just house money, gravy, however you want to cut it. That's my opinion. I think the rotation has been doing a more than enough good job of that so far early this season.
Yeah, and like you said, the lineup needs to go out there and do their job. And shocker, Pete Alonso is going to be the spark plug to that lineup doing its job. I mean, Brandon Nimmo's been I know the stats might not show it, but he's been awesome this year. His last 7 games, he has over an 1,100 OPS. He's been phenomenal. Starling Marte is better than you could have expected, especially on his legs with all of his injury problems. You would have never expected this. Lindor, since the ovation, has over an 850 OPS. He's been awesome. Pete Alonso's been a huge letdown this year. Hopefully tonight he can get it going. Hopefully everyone go out and cheer him on too.
I think this year really is, like, we talked about the Mets core, right? Yeah. And like over the years, it's been essentially like outside of Edwin Diaz. Like if we're talking everyday players, that core is Jeff McNeil, it's Francisco Lindor, it's Brandon Nimmo, it's Pete Alonso. 2 of those guys, like one has a very tradable contract, and the other is contract is up. Contract is up, right? So, and like I really think, because this is a year that you're looking at this lineup, like you said, Chris, to carry the team. I think if this lineup cannot consistently show you day in and day out that they're going to produce, then changes need to be made. And like, what happened?
We'll make those.
Yeah, no, he will. But I mean that from every sense. Like, I've been the biggest Alonso guy, and I still think that we should re-sign him. But like, if he doesn't produce this year, maybe you don't give him that $30 million a year contract, right? Because that's probably what he's seeking. Like Jeff McNeil, if he keeps doing what he's doing this offseason, this trade deadline, he should be gone. Yeah. Francisco Lindor should absolutely stay here. But the days of like, if we see another year of sub 800 OPS and a shitty batting average, the days of wiping his ass and making him bat second, third in the lineup, those days need to end. And like, I love him. I really love Lindor, but like pushing it down our throat of making him bat second, third every night, that shit's got to stop. If you like this is the year. You have to give it this year, but like, this is the year. If things cannot come together for these guys, you need to shake things up. You need to make hard decisions. You need to move on.
Of that core, I think the first 2 I think it's easily Jeff McNeil's the first one that's gone, and I'd call me crazy, but if Pete Alonso needs to go and have a really good year. Like it can't be like he had a good year. No, he has to go and have a really good year. He needs to be in the MVP conversation. Because if he doesn't,
no, I don't agree with that. To give him insane money. To give him insane money,
Juan Soto, you have to. He has to. He has to go out and prove that he's worth going over the luxury tax. That he's worth maybe spending that money on him over Juan Soto.
Because no matter what he does, though, he'll never be worth
Juan Soto.
He'll never be worth more than Juan Soto, though. Like no matter what Pete does, Pete can't steal bases. He can't play defense like Juan Soto. He won't get on base like Juan Soto is a once in a generational type player.
No, agreed. But I think at a certain point that $20 million or $25 million discrepancy, it becomes almost more valuable, in terms of signing Alonso, if he can produce to that MVP caliber talent, when he was on his A game in his rookie year in 2022. I wouldn't call him an MVP, but he was definitely in the conversation as like a top 10, top 15 guy in the NL. But
Chris, you wanted to get something
to start living up. But yeah, go on, Chris.
No, I mean, I really think that regardless of how you cut it, whether Alonso's here or not, I think there's going to be drastic differences in this lineup anyways. Like, Brandon Nimmo's not like, I get that his on-base percentage is not changed even with more home runs. Like Right now, he's floating around 350, 360 in the OBP category, and his average is what? I mean, 218 last time.
Yeah, slow.
Right? So, like, he impacts the game. And, like, my whole thing of watching Brandon Nimmo's game, especially when he's had this over 1100 OPS, like Zach just mentioned here in the recent, like, days, right?
Days.
This guy, he might be the Mets' best hitter. He is the Mets' best. He undoubtedly is the Mets' best hitter. He's got the most RBIs. I trust him the most with runners in scoring position,
100%.
And he still has power. So all three of those things combined, that screams middle of the lineup bat to me. That doesn't scream lead off bat. I'm just going to say that right now. And I know a lot of people are going to push back. They have pushed back. They will continue to push back. And a lot of people also say, like, you need the guy that you consider the best bat up at the top of the lineup because that's the position that gets the most at bats. But when you have spots this year that you looked at, Pete Alonso, that has absolutely flailed and failed with runners in scoring position. Lindor, before he caught this recent hot streak, also the same thing. Like, the middle of the order hasn't really been the strong suit of this team. It's been the top two guys with Nimmo and Marte, right? Before Marte hit the bereavement list. And it's been the bottom of the lineup, your Tyrone Taylors, right?
Harrison Bader.
And
it's been, like, non-existent. And JD Martinez also, he's not performing the way that we all hoped he would, but he's still hitting around 300. Like, it's serviceable, but it's our more just singles, I guess. But, like, it's those the 3 and 4 hitters, really, that have kind of, like, underperformed a little bit. And Lindor's turning it on, and Pete Alonso, the jury's still out on. But, like, if you get the gist of where I'm going, I really think we need to just reshape, especially with the prospects coming up. I don't think Brandon Nimmo's our future leadoff hitter. To be honest with you, I'm just going to say it that quite simple and leave it at that. That's it.
I think it's an easy switch right here. It's move Nimmo to 3 and slide Lindor and Marte up one slot. And Marte is just essentially a placeholder until Gilbert, until Jet Williams are ready. Because Nimmo right now is the best hitter in this lineup. And I know you mentioned, Chris, that he has like a 220 average or 215 average, whatever it might be. But he is, every time he puts his bat to that ball, it is loud. He is getting so unlucky. I haven't looked at the stats, but if you do, look at his batting average on balls in play, I bet you it's at or below 200 because he's someone that is screaming. He's making screaming contact and screaming he needs to be in the middle of the order.
And I don't know why there's a reluctance to let Lindor lead off. Like, he's got speed, he's got power, and like at the worst, when he's in a dry spell, okay, dude, you just ground it out to nobody, and it was like you struck out. It's whatever. Yeah. It's like I want to put my fucking head through a wall. When it's the first inning of a game, Nimmo gets on base, and then Lindor right to the shortstop. Yeah. And like that's twofold. Is like, Nimmo has probably the best like vertical speed on this team. How the fuck has no one taught this guy how to steal a base? He's like 8 years into his MLB career.
I think it's more so his legs.
I think it's like a skill because it was always like a talking point in 2006 how Jose Reyes was significantly faster than Carlos Beltran, but Beltran was a much better base runner, right? Like Beltran always knew when to go. Chris, you look like you're about to.
I have two that just knowing how like stealing bases and playing baseball for a while. I can see why Brandon Nimmo doesn't steal bases. One, the type of runner that Brandon Nimmo is, he's not a get it going early and often into your first stride type runner. He really needs to get going to hit his top speed, and his first step is absolutely awful. It's awful.
It's terrible.
His leads might be even worse. His leads, he doesn't
read the pitcher well.
Yeah, like his lead, like he could take a good lead, a healthy lead, but his jumps are awful. I don't think he knows how to read a pitcher efficiently enough to steal consistent bags. And so I think those two combinations with Brandon Nimmo really do make that hard for him, coupled with the fact that, like you said, Zach, the legs, the injury concerns, sliding into second base is kind of like a nightmare for him, right? Like, I don't know. But if they were to make that switch today, and they switch Brandon Nimmo and Francisco Lindor, because I really do think a swap in the lineup, you bat Francisco Lindor first and you hit Brandon Nimmo third, I think that plays to both of their advantages. And it's not even about like Lindor's not capable of being a middle of the order bat. It's more so that his game, for me, is better suited at the leadoff spot. And Brandon Nimmo is going to become a type of hitter through the longevity of this contract that he got over the course of the 8 years. He's going to be more power oriented than not. And that's where I think that switch just should be made. But I don't expect it to happen this season at all. And I fully understand that.
Neither do I, but you can only hope. And to jump off what Stevie Max just said, I mean, there was a statistic, and it was with Cleveland, Lindor was a better hitter in the leadoff spot. His best stats were producing out of the leadoff spot. And that's an easy thing for the Mets to switch up, but I don't think it's going to happen right away. Time will tell. Hopefully it does. And that being said, too, I just want to finish this up real quick, Pass. Yeah, I don't want to put Lindor's struggles on Alonso, but also Lindor hitting in the 3-hole ahead of someone that's been awful with runners in scoring position, that's been just downright disappointing this season, offers him no protection. And I don't want to put Lindor's struggles on Alonso, like I said, but that definitely did not help and has compounded Lindor's struggles to begin the season. And maybe batting him leadoff could help that.
Someone had said when he got here in 2021 that when I say someone, I don't know if it was like, I don't think it was Gary Cohen. It was like someone on a broadcast, I believe, or someone on MLB Network. I want to say this is where I heard that, like, it was literally in stone in his contract that he had to bat second or third each night. So
I'm fine with him in the 2-hole. I mean,
I don't know. Like, first of all, I don't even know why you would want that in your contract, because, like, what if the way things shake out, you're better off batting fourth or you're better off leading off, or like, I don't know. Like, to me,
he has batted cleanup a few times.
He's done it here and there. I guess maybe it's like almost as if a no trade clause, like he's got to prove it. But
I'm not gonna lie to you.
What happened?
That sounds like a tall tale. Sounds like that's not that.
I have. That's why I'm not like confirmed. I'm just saying I remember hearing that. But it does make sense because the entirety of his time here, he's led off a handful of times. He's batted fourth, but like even in 2021 when he was a disaster, he was still always second or third. So I would not be shocked if that was written in stone. I'm just saying it would be wise of the Mets to move him around, and I agree with both of you. Leading off, I think, is the best thing for this entire lineup, 100%.
I think leading off for being this will be great.
Let's move on to tomorrow because I only have so much time left. We've got Max Fried, Christian Scott. The Mets have kind of gotten to Max Fried relatively well in that first meeting.
Yeah.
We hope to see Christian Scott do the same thing. Yeah. What do you guys think?
So Chris earlier said that Quintana is someone that really needs to hit his spots and pitch to the black when he's pitching, just because of the lack of movement and the lack of, zip on his pitches. Christian Scott's kind of the opposite in the sense that his stuff has so much spin and just has so much life that he can miss his spots and miss them even middle of the plate and get away with it. Now, he's someone that does not pitch out of the zone, which I think he needs to do more of, but I expect him to go out there and be lights out again. I mean, I expect nothing less of it. His stuff is just electric, and I hope to God he can go out there and really just show up this Atlanta Braves team. It would just put the biggest smile on my face tomorrow.
That slider is lethal.
Electric.
I forgot who he had just looking silly on it. I think
it was a Rosarena.
It was a Rosarena, so that means he got him twice. One with the fastball down the middle when he actually needed first inning, and then also with that slider, like 2-3 balls off the plate. Nonetheless, when you possess any pitcher, and David Stearns loves this, which is why it doesn't surprise me that he got called up with just like such a quickness, and probably why he's here to stay, in my opinion, is that David Stearns loves, if you look at the acquisitions this year, whether it's in the starting rotation or the bullpen, he loves pitchers with that slider. And Christian Scott is absolutely no exception to that. And I agree with you. That zip, like, he can throw it pretty much anywhere. Obviously, you're always going to tell a guy to locate, but he missed middle into Rosarena in a key spot in the first inning in his first go-around, and Rosarena whiffed it. It was a 96-mile-per-hour fastball. This guy has electricity to his stuff, and it's great to see because that's where I feel like the Mets are lacking in that category. I feel like they still lack that starting pitcher that can go out there and consistently throw 7, also through 6 innings.
Yeah. And it's not blazing speed, but the thing is, it has so much spin to it and so much movement that it really just fools these guys, especially with it being, a faster pitch in general. But it isn't like the DeGrom speed we saw, at the end of his tenure with the Mets. But it's a sight of beauty.
I'd be curious to look at his Savant page when he builds up enough innings pitched to sort of get a good representation of it. His Savant page is going to tell a lot to us.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I remember watching his debut, and I'll admit, like, I never really watched Christian Scott before that. Didn't know a whole lot about him, just knew that he was doing really well down in the minors. And I remember, like, looking over at my buddy Dan, I was like, yo, is he touching like 96, 97? And sure as shit, like, he was just zipping it by people. And I agree with you, like, almost since DeGrom, like, we haven't had a guy that could, I mean, listen, DeGrom was throwing 99, 100, but, like, we haven't had a flamethrower. We haven't had a guy that throws hard and just gets people out with speed. And it is, you don't want to see a rotation of only guys that do that. You want to see a lot of just, diversity essentially amongst your pitchers and them doing different things. But it is nice having that guy that could just zip it past people and they're like, their hands are up. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, it just, I can't keep up with it.
It's great. And he's so talented. His 4-pitch mix is awesome too. I mean, you really don't see kids coming up from the minors now with like a 4-pitch mix of all like really good, arguably plus pitches in the MLB. I mean, the splitter, which he didn't throw too much of to play off of that fastball, the sweeper and the slider to play off of each other was just again, it's a sight of beauty. And honestly, no shock he was such a quick rise in the system because his stuff is awesome. And he has a great just understanding of the strike zone and how to get guys out. He just needs to learn how to miss a little bit more outside and fool those guys with pitches off the plate to allow less home runs. And I know he didn't against Tampa, but in the minors this year, he did allow a good deal of home runs. Just learning, that he can get guys all out with pitches off the plate as opposed to really just throwing in the strike zone all the time.
All right, boys. It is about that time. I have to head out to a fundraiser. Do we have any closing thoughts before tonight's game? Do we want to get anything in on the Knicks?
Let's go Knicks. That's it. I'm going to be watching.
Let's go Knicks.
Got to get it in. Let's go Rangers.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure talking with Jerry as well. Representing
great show last night.
The Sunny Days crew. Good post game last night. This whole series really. MSG Sports is up. Really, hopefully the Mets follow suit. And really, I think this team still lacks that sort of, like you said, that little dog in them past, like that the Rangers have and the Knicks have to battle adversity. Like the Knicks tonight, Dante DiVincenzo was asked, are you guys going to punt this game with Jalen Brunson banged up and OG Anunoby considered out? And he's like, hell no, we're not punting this game. What are you talking about? And it's just like that type of energy that I feel like, you go down a guy, Francisco Alvarez goes down. I'm not saying that the Mets haven't really fought given the injuries, but I still think like the mental toughness of this team after the last couple of years that I've seen is always going to be a question to me. It's always going to be a question when they get in a route, how quickly they come back. And that's not only a team perspective because they're floating around 500. I think they're doing a good job so far. They're a middle of the pack team. That's what they are. That's what we probably expected them to be. And that maybe could sneak them in the playoffs. But I'm talking about individual performances like Alonso. You go 1 for 20. What's going to happen? What's it going to take for you not to go 1 for 21? And stop extending these slumps is basically what my closing thought is. Like when you get into a slump, when everything looks just bleak and you're just looking like a fool up there, you got to get yourself out of it quicker than you got into it. And I think that in recent years, we've seen extended slumps from Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, Jeff McNeil. Yeah. If you want to be a winning organization, like good teams, their top players, they slump because everyone does in the MLB. But they don't slump for long, and they find ways to get themselves out of it. That's my final thoughts. Out on that, I want to see that get better.
Yeah, I had similar closing thoughts. I mean, just Pete Alonso needs to stop letting his previous mistakes compound and turn into an awful game. Just go up there and try to make solid contact. I mean, he's trying to hit the 5-run home run every time he gets up to the plate, and he's guessing on pitches and he's guessing wrong every single time. Go up there with an idea and go up there with a game plan at the plate and execute. All you got to do. I know it's easier said than done, but that's why he's there. That's why he's
Well,
the
that's what he's
cleanup hitter for the
capable of.
Mets.
That's
So
what
exactly.
he's capable of. Like you're a stud. Like
You're a 50 home run hitter. You know, you're
Yeah.
a 50 home run
Yeah.
year hitter. So
You're
go out
you're
there
a-
and do it.
You're a really, really hard guy to replace. Show why you're hard to replace. Show why you're worth the money that you're gonna demand, and get out of this. And I guess if I have a closing thought tonight, Jose Quintana, give me something to watch tonight. Don't
Quality start.
shit down your fucking leg in the second inning and walk 3 guys and get no, bro. Come out and just be serviceable. Be serviceable. Show David Stearns why you should stay here, because right now you're looking like the odd man out. You're looking like the guy that's going to be replaced. Let's just be honest, because
Yeah.
eventually we're going to see at some point, if not this, well, it's really all predicated on this year, but maybe we'll see Vassell. Sanga's coming back, Peterson, McGill. There are other guys. There are other guys that are dying to replace you. And you just being the consistent guy your whole career is not going to keep you in a Mets uniform right now.
No.
It's not going to keep you pitching in the majors. And by God, trust me, if you can't get it done here with the low expectations that they've got for you, it ain't going to work anywhere else. So find a way to keep the Mets in ball games. That's what I asked tonight. Get off to a damn good start. Find a way to win this game. Let's get a New York sweep tonight.
Let's do it.
All right, boys. Thanks for jumping on. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Great show, Chris. Great show,
We
Pat.
will see you all hopefully next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Let's fucking go
LFGM.
Mets.
Go Mets.